Welcome to 10 Minute Magic, a bi-weekly format covering news in the world of Magic the Gathering in 10 minutes or less.
I am Joe Butcher, filling in for Joseph, who is currently suffering from the plague at home, but will hopefully be back soon.
Hi guys, I'm sitting in, but you don't want to hear me talk for longer than about 5 seconds.
Joseph, we wish you the best. And I am Ben Cottee, and this is what's going on in Magic the Gathering this week. Fabrizio Anteri was disqualified from GP Manchester. I attended GP Manchester at the weekend. I was just hanging out inside events, trading, and I was catching up with a local player and local grinder, David Calf, between rounds 5 and 6, who mentioned that Fabrizio had been disqualified and suggested the reason was mana weaving. Shortly after, Helene Bergeau tweeted out a statement confirming that he had been disqualified from the tournament, and it became the talk of the weekend. The crux of the disqualification is that Fabrizio, by his own admission, made a conscious effort to separate land and spells in an even manner in his deck before games. We call this mana weaving. Every player, I think, has done this at some stage in their Magic career. However, you're supposed to then sufficiently randomize your deck before offering it to your opponent by shuffling either ripples or sideway mass shuffles. So in practice, it makes the exercise rather pointless. The issue in Fabrizio's case is that he did not randomize his deck after doing so. This creates an unfair advantage and is against the rules. Rumours have been surfacing over the past few months on Fabrizio, with some on the American GP circuit voicing these publicly on social media, and to others in his pro team, Team Eureka. The team put out a statement this week where they said that they put those concerns to Fabrizio, who confirmed he was clean and that they were false, and the team accepted that. The fact that this was also caught before the first game on his first round of the GP in round 4 suggests that it was a targeted operation by the judges and something that they had been looking out for. Fabrizio's defense, he posted a Facebook post to the community, is essentially that he has, in this or other instances, spaced out after sorting through his deck and has just presented the deck forgetting to shuffle it properly. I guess only he will truly know if this is an honest representation, but to the outside community, it's no kind of defense. Wednesday of this week, confirmation came in that Fabrizio has been banned for 18 months. So in December 2017, if Fabrizio comes back to the game, he will have no pro point level, no Planeswalker points for the season. He will be at square one, ground zero. He will have no pro team, and Tournament Center EU have ended their sponsorship relationship with him. Ultimately, this may be the best thing for Fabrizio as well, because as long as he can climb back and do so showing clean play, it will help regain some of the public belief in his Magic playing skills, as this really has undermined all of his achievements to date, regardless of how much of an actual advantage he gained from doing this. Many in the community have called for lifetime bans or harsher punishment, but for someone whose life is defined by the game, he recently posted that he's been grinding Magic the Gathering online for 10 hours a day to practice with the GP at the weekend. Having his right to play removed, as well as the huge financial impact this will have on him, his loss of platinum status and the benefits, the amount of money he was going to earn from his World Championship appearance later in the year, this ban is actually a hefty punishment. UK Magic didn't always fully embrace Fabrizio. Obviously, he Venezuelan birth and came across to the UK and UK Magic at a later date. And even at the World Magic Cup, he never really did show an English patriotism, which is what we really look for as our captain in the past few years. But he was a shining example of what was possible, and his success was motivating and driving a lot of the UK players to emulate. His loss and banning is definitely a knock to the game over here. I spoke to Fabrizio a lot when I attended the Pro Tour in Atlanta a couple of years ago, and my interactions with him and since have always been great. And those close to him in the Magic UK community have likewise been glowing of him as a person and a Magic player. So to those on Reddit calling for permabans and lynching, maybe they should consider that we aren't all perfect and that sometimes good people make bad decisions and bad mistakes. Fabrizio has done so, and he'll definitely be feeling the impact for that for years to come.
Moving on, we've got Rosewater and Vorthos Upsi. Mark Rosewater has a very good and open Tumblr where he answers quite a lot of Magic players' questions. In the past week, however, he may have given away a big Shadows over Innistrad spoiler. A poster asked about Nahiri's place in the storyline and where she had been this entire time. Mark Rosewater quickly responded by saying Nahiri had been trapped in the Hell Vault for the past 1,000 years, which was the same place that Griselbrand was stored. The post was quickly deleted, but, as the internet does, it remembers everything, and somebody took screenshots before it disappeared. This would explain why Nahiri is so irritated with Sorin, and why Sorin didn't want to tell Ugin where she disappeared to. Vorthos, or Magic players who enjoy the stories of Magic the Gathering, were kind of divided in saying either "I told you so" and "please no spoilers." I think Maro probably just thought everybody knew, so he just said it, and then somebody pointed out that it wasn't, and therefore taken down. What does this actually mean for the storyline, though? Does it mean that Nahiri is the big bad person on a revenge mission, or is it something bigger and scarier still coming in the Innistrad block? GP apathy from the pros. This is the third season where the top 6, previously 5, finishes in a GP count toward a pro player's points total for the season. Now, early in the fourth quarter of the year, many pros are either questioning why they're attending a GP because they need a literal top 8 in a 2,000 player tournament to get any additional points, or if they should just completely skip the tournaments altogether. Martin User, who has probably played more GPs than any other player, tweeted that it feels weird skipping a Euro GP. But on the bright side, there will be one more spot in the top 8 for all my friends hunting for pro points. Playing against or meeting top pros is a big appeal for many players as to GP, so their attendance dwindling cannot be a good thing for Wizards of the Coast. In the US, this also means that the pro players attending Star City Games tournaments from a cash perspective may increase. Wizards have added the title GP Master, which is for most pro points across any number of GPs, as a route to qualify for the World Championships. Fabrizio happened to be the points leader here until this weekend, and the unfortunate case in Manchester. This title is designed to help motivate pros to attend despite the cap limit, but realistically it only incentivizes a handful of players who can travel enough to have a chance at it. Maybe Wizards needs to reconsider this policy, either with more events in the cap or another incentive for the professionals to attend.
Well, good news here is that most likely now probably to profit from Fabrizio's unfortunate events is Good Guy Reed Duke, who otherwise might not have been qualifying for the end of season World Championships. And connected to this also, there is much more debate over the weekend about the lack of GP coverage again. Once again from our good friend Martin User saying, while all the other games are improving their coverage, I just don't get it. Does WotC really feel they have to save money here? So Wizards of the Coast announced at the start of the year that they were cutting down on the number of GPs they were going to cover, saying that the previous year they had overextended and that the focus would become on quality over quantity. It said on non-coverage weekends that text and other pieces would fill the gap and help the narrative. Back on to our friend Martin User, who said, 2 GPs, yet no video coverage, no written feature match coverage. The only thing on the coverage websites are deck texts with no deck lists. Coming after the highs of the modern coverage by Channel Fireball last week, a standard doubleheader with nothing on Twitch is mind-boggling to everyone, it seems, except for Wizards of the Coast. I can understand their decision to cut back on limited coverage. It's difficult to craft a narrative and connect with audience with so many different random lines of play, game states and deck contents. But while esports push coverage to the limit, and while we are told Magic growth and numbers are the healthiest every year on year, the investment in this area doesn't seem to fit. Let's hope for a rebound in the next year.
Moving on to the articles now. In regards to articles, we seem to be a little bit low this week on Manaleak. Joseph was planning on having one available, but due to his condition was unfortunately unable to do so. So we wish him all the best in his recovery and look forward to the article that he puts out. However, the ones that have been put out, a highly interesting one that did come out was Is Rules Lawyering an Acceptable Way to Win in Magic by Matt Gregory. It questions if using the rules to garner advantages in games is morally acceptable or not, and places quite heavy emphasis on good sportsmanship when winning or just playing to do so. The other article that came out is my own, Brew Time for Beginners, Modern Big Naya. I aim to provide a different usage of the increasingly popular Nahiri the Harbinger Planeswalker from Shadows over Innistrad. I seek to find a new home for her by just going that little bit bigger than the last guy.
Yeah, they're very interesting articles, Joe. Obviously, the rules lawyering is very prominent with the big DQ this week. The comments seem to split into 2 camps of the casuals and the grinders, where the grinders were very much in using any edge to your advantage as long as it was within the rules, while the casuals were sort of telling stories of the times they were undone by a better rules knowledge of their opponent and maybe made them feel quite uncomfortable. And I was really interested to see how big you were going to go with Nahiri, considering in Modern that she's attached to the big giant spaghetti monster Emrakul. But there were some really other interesting ideas in there, and maybe her really high price tag might be sustained going into the future.
That pretty much wraps up the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. You can find Joseph on Twitter at Joseph_Dunlap, Ben at Carborita, And finally, myself, I can be followed at Zonal Texas 1. So from myself, thank you very much for listening.
So until next time with 10 Minute Magic, bye-bye.